To further discuss this, I'm joined by Aniekan Joseph. He's a public policy enthusiast. Aniekan, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me start by asking, so President Tinubu highlighted the critical role of state governors in driving Nigeria's prosperity, particularly in agriculture and also economic growth. But what policies or reforms do you think are necessary at the state level to support the federal government's goals for food security and economic development this year?
Thank you very much for that question. I'd like to say first that the president's comments reveal what everyone already understands, but is a subtle admittance of weak state capacity, institutional and political. When the president has to appeal to governors that, in quote, they have no choice, it suggests to people who are listening carefully that they've been exercising other choices, and he is appealing to them to focus on developing the state. As far as strategies are concerned, every state has something that they can do in terms of how they mobilize resources to strengthen the welfare of their people. You know, one of the most long-term approaches is legislative, where you work with your state houses of assembly to enact laws that create an enabling environment for the investors that we have within the global financial ecosystem. If that collaboration is there, where laws meet up with political ambition, you know, we can begin to attract investors. One of the other things that, you know, we can definitely do in terms of how we deploy resources or mobilize resources for development is to outline priorities. You know, what do we want to be as a state within this union, and how do we want to project that beyond the shores of Nigeria? If we begin to outline the areas of easy competitive advantage, you know, we can now consolidate on these areas of easy competitive advantage. We can build laws, you know, build infrastructure and create markets, you know, liaising or collaborating with the federal government to ensure that we take these our competitive advantages and create markets across our shores, strengthen our ability to earn forex, develop domestic capacity to, for instance, add value to the things that we are producing. I think that the steps that I have outlined are high level, they are long-term, they're sophisticated, and they can create systems that can ensure that development is sustained in the long run. Thank you.
Now, Aniekan, the president has put in certain policies to make the country a better place economically. His recent reforms, such as the removal of fuel subsidies and also the unification of exchange rates, they've actually had a significant impact on Nigeria's economy. But how do you think, or how do you assess the effectiveness of these reforms, and what additional measures would you recommend to ensure that these changes lead to sustained economic growth?
I'll start with the fuel subsidy removal. You know, a lot has been said about it, but there's a perspective that may have been missed, which is that, is it true that the issue was subsidy, or that the issue was rather the secrecy and the shadowy way that subsidy was administered in this country? And could it be, for instance, that removing subsidy the way it was a convenient way, because now there's really no need to shed the light on what may have been going on within that subsidy system? In terms of how effective it is, immediately the subsidy was removed, it gave government a longer runway in terms of finances to fund its operations. And you could immediately see that in what the appetite of the government of the day was. When all of that resources was freed up from subsidy, you know, we began to see interesting expense issues like SUVs and residences and yachts and private jets, you know, as against decoupling or shedding the light on the subsidy regime, removing the corruption that exists within that system, and then ensure that you are gradually phasing out the subsidy regime so that you are you give your people the best chance to do the best for themselves.
So in assessing all of this, Aniekan, are you saying that the president, that was not a good move, in summary? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, of course, it could have been far better. There could have been a number of integrated steps to manage the situation without plunging the population into the deep financial depression that they currently experience.
Because I have other questions regarding local government autonomy. I mean, it was a key point in President Tinubu's agenda for 2025. So how do you see the increased autonomy for local governments enhancing grassroots development? Does it work, do you think, or is that another mistake?
We have to be prepared for the unfortunate consequences that come with it because of the poor political capacity that we've built within the system. Remember that the local government area has been deprived of democracy, for a very long time. And now that it looks like it's going to be restored, they have to learn all over again how to engage with people. And in the period where they are learning, the people at the state level who have mastered state craftsmanship will definitely take advantage of that space of learning. However, over a period of time, we're going to learn. There's an assumption that we need to also carefully manage, which is that because the local government is ethnically homogeneous, largely speaking, that the people who are the leaders will have the interest of their people at heart. We are going to learn very quickly in the coming months that because your brother is in charge, it does not necessarily translate to development. And what we want are people that are visionary and have sympathy for their people. Thanks.
And President Tinubu emphasized collaboration. I beg your pardon. He emphasized collaboration between federal and state governments as vital for national progress. So, Aniekan, in your view, what are the most effective ways public policy enthusiasts and also experts can contribute to bridging gaps between the two levels of government to tackle Nigeria's most pressing challenges?
That's a massive question. In the last 26 odd years that we've been doing this business of democracy, what we would notice the most is that every time there is a law or a proposed bill that can significantly change the way we do governance in Nigeria, the state assemblies will step in because that's what the law has provided. So in terms of how states and federal governments can collaborate, one of the things that they can quickly do is to look at laws that can fundamentally change, that empowers local and state governors to do more for their people, as against the idea of an exclusive list, an exhaustive exclusive list, that someone in Abuja that knows nothing about the other 700 plus local government areas has to do. So in that way, the states, House of Assemblies, the governors, the National Assembly members, and the president can identify things that it can do to unbundle governance, which is where the idea of giving autonomy to the local government takes some credit. And there are other options that we can explore. What is exclusive that the federal government has taken control of, that the states and local governments can do, and we can walk around all of the physical issues around it financially, and we can see that Nigeria can be unleashed to be the titan and the giant it can be within the continent.
Aniekan, I want to say thank you very much for your very cogitative responses, and be sure that we'll be coming back to you again for more on this area. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.